Convocation. Welcome, welcome. We have just a couple of announcements and then we'll get started with our presentation today. There are no music or theater events this week, but we do have the art exhibit going on, so if you're taking the class and need additional cultural events, go over to the art exhibit in the Humanities Building and check that out. And then I've had a couple of students email me and say, what do we do after we attend these cultural events? Go on Canvas and go under assignments, and then you just follow the link under assignments and there'll be feedback forms that you fill out. Okay, also there's the Granary Art Center on Main Street right across from Maverick that you can go to check out an art exhibit. Okay, please take out your phones and silence them or turn them off. This is being recorded and live streamed to our Richfield campus, so they won't be a distraction. Okay, next week we'll have the privilege of hearing from one of the world's finest musicians, drummer Kenny Aronoff. He's voted one of the top 100 greatest drummers of all time by Rolling Stone magazine, so you don't want to miss it. Be here and bring your friends. How did you guys like last week? Yeah, was that good? Yeah? Sorry about getting you out a little bit late. Really sorry, I was back there trying to give him the sign, but he's deaf, so he didn't hear me. All right, so, okay, before we have our presenter today, we're gonna start with a quick video clip, and they'll introduce the presenter.
When you came out, I felt like I was
the only one.
I felt like we were the only ones. You were the only gay person in Provo, Utah.
I remember that too.
Which made me feel, as a mom, really, really alone.
When I was running for student body president, an account was made about me being gay and how I shouldn't be president. And the caption says, "Whatever you do, don't vote for Michael Gaywalter. We don't want our school being run by a faggot." And I remember seeing the screenshots of what he had posted, and my heart immediately dropped. And I'm like, why would anyone feel justified to say this whatsoever?
I think that Provo should be the best place to grow up an LGBTQ child because we do community so well. But it's the hardest place. Suicide is now the leading cause of death for young people in Utah, and the suicide rate has tripled since 2007. There was a period of 11 days last summer where every single day there was LGBTQ suicide in Utah. There's messaging that's telling these kids, you're not okay. These are kids who feel like God doesn't love them, their parents won't understand, their community won't understand who they are. The reason for Encircle is to keep youth alive.
I'm a trans woman. I've been in this area for 5 years out, and I have seen a lot of people be terrible to other people, and I want to try and change that.
I had a very close friend of mine for a lot of years who came out, and I was his only support that he had for quite a bit of time. We were both brand new, back from our missions in 2011 going to BYU, and I did my best I could. I don't know if I did as well as I could have, so here I am.
At BYU, I was a family science major, and back then I would have told you that gay marriage would destroy the country. I might have thought that it was evil to be homosexual, but life changed and experiences changed me. We spent a year prior to opening trying to figure out how can we fit into our community, rather than being something that is butting up against the community and their beliefs. We want to support who the community is, meet them where they are, and help us all progress and become better.
I have great respect for Stephenie taking a tremendous risk, saying that I'm going to go walk with these LGBTQ people. I'm going to go out there and put a physical location together in Provo as sort of a symbol of the House of Healing. Prior to becoming an LDS bishop, I let other people define for me what LGBTQ people were. A wonderful mother posted a picture of her teenage gay LDS son, and she talked that he committed suicide the day before. I felt called from God to go serve these LGBTQ youth.
A lot goes on every week at Encircle. We have 11 support groups a week, anything from lesbian support group to transgender support groups.
There was a time when we were really worried about Michael's safety, and when he would go out driving, there was always the thought in my mind that he might not come back. And I would text him, where are you? And he would say, I'm at Encircle, and I would instantly stop worrying. That pit in my stomach would go away instantly. I knew that he was safe. I really feel like Encircle literally saved his life.
We will never tell any of the youth who they should be. We will never say, you should stay in the church, you should leave this community. Our approach is, you need to be who you need to be whole.
Today, we're so fortunate to have Stephenie Larsen with us as our guest speaker. Stephenie's the founder of Encircle LGBTQ Family, Youth, and
When you
Resource
came out,
Center in Provo, which is a safe place for LGBTQ kids and their families. Stephenie was recognized as the 2017 Human Rights Campaign Awards and at the 2018 Sundance Film Festival. She was named one of the 11 upstanders by Starbucks Coffee, recognizing her as an example of what it means to have courage in today's America. Encircle recently hosted the country's largest LGBTQ youth summit, and it also made possible the recent Love Loud festival featuring Imagine Dragons and neon trees. Stephenie has appeared on the Today Show, and Encircle has been featured on NBS News and Huffington Post. Stephenie has spent her career working with families. She is a BYU graduate and earned her undergraduate degree in family sciences and then her law degree. While practicing law, Stephenie represented abused and neglected children and worked on Capitol Hill. She and her husband Mitch have 6 children and live in Provo. Please join me in welcoming Stephenie Larsen.
Thanks for having me. So I will tell you a little bit about Encircle to begin. We started it about a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago now. We didn't officially open our doors until Valentine's Day last year. And since then, it has just been, I think, small miracles every day. So as she said in the introduction, over the past year, I've gotten a number of acknowledgments for doing this little house. And when the Today Show called and asked me to come and be on it, I said to my husband, I said, this is really ridiculous that because an old lady decides to start a little house in her town to love and support gay kids, that it would be national news. And I really think that, I find it interesting that we can put a man on the moon, we can map our genome, but sometimes it is so difficult for us to love other people and respect them when they're different than us. So I'm going to just start by figuring out if this clicker works, or if I know how to use it. Okay, I just want to have you in the audience tell me with one-word answers. Being an LGBTQ person is what? Any idea? Difficult? Robert, you have one, I know you do. A challenge? In the back. Awesome! I like that. Anyone else? Go ahead. Scary. Okay. So we spent a year prior to opening Encircle, trying to figure out how do we fit into this conservative community. 85% of Provo is Mormon and very conservative. We wanted to not go and bump up against our community, but learn to love better together. And so we came up with our mission, which is to embrace and sustain every LGBTQ youth, every family, and every community. What we mean by that is, I think that even if an individual is okay with themselves, if your family is not understanding and loving, it makes life that much harder. So we want to expand that circle of love and support within the family. And then even if you have your family, if you feel like your community doesn't understand who you are, you don't ever feel completely whole. So also expanding the circle of love within our communities. We believe that better conversations in Encircle lead to better conversations in people's homes, in our schools, in our churches. And I think that we're seeing that happen in Provo. And it's been really fun to watch. So the problem. Do we have a problem? Would any of you think that we might in Utah? Suicide is the leading cause of death for youth 15 to 24 in Utah. So you're far more likely to die of a suicide than a car wreck in Utah, which to me is shocking. Recently, the CDC came in to Utah and they've been studying what's going on here. And we just got new numbers at the end of December that say youth suicide in Utah has increased each year nearly 4 times faster than the national average. So if you think about that, it's the leading cause of death for youth in Utah, but then if you're part of the LGBTQ community, you're even 3 times more likely to commit suicide than the average youth. Those numbers are huge. So as a mom, I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years. And I'm just at my house raising my kids and living my life. And for some reason, I start hearing about these statistics. And I just kind of want to tell you why I got so involved in this and why it means so much to me. My kids think it's a midlife crisis. Maybe it is, but it's far more than that. So coming out of BYU, I was, like I said in the Starbucks video, I was a very black and white thinker. And I really thought that it was a sin to be gay. And then I married into my husband's family, the Larsens-Williams family, and I met John Williams. And one person changed the trajectory of my life more than anyone ever has. John was a gay man who came out to his family 50 years ago after serving an LDS mission. He was at Utah State and he was suicidal. His sister found out and she went and picked him up and brought him to Salt Lake City. And John came out to his family. And what did his family do? They loved him. They said, John, we know you, we love you, go be John. So John didn't spend years and years trying to repair family relationships. He didn't feel outside of his circles of love. And John became one of the most important renovationists in Salt Lake. He was the first one to start renovating old buildings in Salt Lake, and our skyline is different because of John. John started the Gastronomy Restaurant Group, which includes restaurants like the Market Street Grill, the Market Street Broiler, Bocce, Cafe Pierpont. I don't know if you've heard of any of those. But John, I was my good friend for 20 years. And I watched him do small acts of service and kindness every day for other people, including myself and my family. And so I was left with this, how can I say that John is not a good person or that he's a sinner based off of him being one of the best people I've ever met? And I guess I say from that, I encourage you all, if you don't know someone who is LGBTQ, to get to know someone, because once you know someone, it changes everything. Sometimes we have a tendency to other people. You know, they're not my problem, I don't know about that, but that is bad. So anyway, I am a stay-at-home mom kind of contemplating these suicide rates and realizing that in my community, kids are killing themselves because they feel like their lives are not worth living. Yet, John came out 50 years ago, and he was able to thrive. And so at Encircle, we are not working necessarily on just keeping our youth alive. We are working to help them thrive. And I will tell you that over the last couple of years of working with LGBTQ youth, I can tell you they are some of the kindest, most talented, deep-thinking people I have ever met. There's something very, very special about them. And I now feel like if we love and support them and who they are, they will be the leaders in our community. Rather than us holding them down, we need to love them. And I think that, you learn in psychology, we all are more comfortable around people who are just like us, the people who look more like us, have the same nationality. And I really have thought why I think as humans that's innate in us, and I hope that we can all work better to look at other people who are different and be interested in them and learn from them, and I think we expand, and our ability to love expands. So how do we help? What do we decide? We decided we build homes. There's something about a home that brings comfort and love and just makes us whole. So instead of putting Encircle in a strip mall, we opened up in this little blue house that is across the street from the downtown Provo temple that was just dedicated about 1.5 years ago. And it's an old pioneer home that started in 1891. I'm just going to tell you the story a little bit of how that happened. I decided this needs to be in the middle of town where people see it so that they don't forget that there are families in our community and youth who are struggling with this and need our love and support. So I thought, well, I'll start where they're about to dedicate the temple and see if, and just kind of circle around and see if I can find an old house. So I drop my kids off at school, go down University Avenue, past the temple, take the first right to start my circling, and up on this hill is the cutest house I've ever seen. And it's has 2 huge available signs. And I thought, we could never afford this house. So then I looked through the windows, and you can see the rainbow stained glass windows that are throughout the house that are 125 years old. And I was like, well, obviously this is the house. And so thinking that we could never afford it, I have a friend come down to visit me from Park City, and I said, is there any chance that you'd want to help us with this venture I'm doing? And she said, well, what if I buy the house and I rent it back to you for $1 a month? And so that's how we got the house. So there's been a lot of magic involved in this project from day one. This is our new house that we just announced last week in Salt Lake City. We hope that we will open it in this summer. We are so squished in Encircle. Every day there's 50 to 60 kids who come. And we'll tell you more about what goes on in the house every week. But we've gone from 1 therapist to 9 therapists, and most of the kids now need to be seen outside of this little house. And we have kids coming from as far as Ogden. Consistently, 25% of our youth who come from outside of Utah County, and so we'd like to be in Salt Lake where there's less of a drive. So we're going to talk about programs next, but I want to introduce Jordan Scrow. If you'll come up, Jordan. She's going to take over for a minute. My job as ED is to find good, talented people and to keep out of their way and let them do their job, because I could never put together a PowerPoint or anything like this. But Jordan is my very good friend that we met just as we were starting Encircle, and I feel like she was kind of this blessing that showed up. And Jordan is a BYU graduate. She was supposed to have her wedding this summer in my backyard, but I called her at 10 o'clock the night before and said, the yard's not done, so we're moving it to another house. Just anyway, and she's still my friend. So she and Amy got married in my neighbor's yard this summer, and they're just beautiful and amazing, and I think setting a great example of thriving individuals, and that's she's just a great example of who we want the youth at Encircle to be. So I'm going to let you go ahead, and there's your clicker. It's the second one.
Thank you. That was so nice of you. Thank you. She made me sound a lot more awesome than I really am. So I do all of the programming and all of the data collection at Encircle. So I'm just gonna sort of go through what we offer, if the clicker will work. Okay, so a huge part of what we offer, just what Steph was just talking about, is counseling. And we offer counseling as subsidized, so it's free, and then $15, and then $35. I will say we've never turned anybody away from counseling, because we see the need, and these families approach us, and they need our help. So we've just grown significantly, 120 sessions per month. That's part of the reason that we're expanding. So when designing programs for Encircle, we have about 8 per week right now, and 2 in the works that we'll announce soon, so we'll get up to 10. When we design programs, we make it a large effort to sort of make something for everyone. Things speak to different people in different ways, so we've got a writing one, a music night, an art night, one where people just come and share their stories, one where you can walk away with different skills that you've learned. Another part of what we offer are support groups, and we call them friendship circles because they're more of a time when you can just come and be around other people who have similar life experiences as you. We offer everything from a lesbian support group to a body image support group for the LGBTQ population. One morning, like a few weeks ago, I had this mom call me, and she was in tears, and she said, my daughter just came out to me, and I think she was 15. My daughter just came out to me, and she won't leave her room. She's attempted suicide a couple times, and I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I noticed on your website there's a teen group that meets every Wednesday. Can she come? And I said, yes, of course. I will meet you at the house and I will bring her up to the group. So her daughter, when we got there, was very like, I don't know, it could be very cliquey. What if they don't like me? And we sort of just pushed her into the room. So she would barely look up at me, would barely look up. And so her mom and I just waited on a couch, just in silence, hoping that something great would happen. And after the group ends, her daughter comes out and she's laughing and she's smiling. And her mom just looks at me and is just starts crying again and hugs me and was like, this changes everything. Thank you so much for what you do here. And I mean, everyone was just stunned, and that's sort of what we do at Encircle, is we just provide this space for people to exist for who they are, and we celebrate their differences and their journeys and their diverse backgrounds. So our volunteers are very special to us. They're part of our family at the Encircle House, and since we opened in February, we've had over 600 volunteers register to be a part of this. We average about 1 volunteer signing up a day. And we have volunteers driving from North Salt Lake and from Ogden to come to Encircle just to be there for a 2-hour shift. So part of what our volunteers do at Encircle is they come for, like I said, 2-hour shifts where they just exist to sort of love and accept whoever walks through that door, whether it's a trans youth who just got kicked out of their home for starting to transition, which has happened, or whether it's a mom whose son just came out as gay and they need that shoulder to cry on and for someone to just listen to them. Also, all of our facilitators and program hosts that we have, they're all volunteers, and they drive from all across Utah to come and be a part of Encircle. We also have volunteers come to volunteer at events. So we hosted Ignite, which was discussed a little bit earlier. It's Utah's largest youth summit for LGBTQ youth. And we had almost 150 volunteers show up to just celebrate these youth for who they were. And I'm gonna let Steph introduce Jake.
So, I don't need the mic, I already have it. Here, I'll give it to Jake. So I want to introduce Jacob Dunford. Jake walked in my door, Jake, how long ago? A year and a half ago, when we needed a website. And I would love Jake to tell a little bit of his story and how he ended up coming to Encircle. And Jake is the reason we have this amazing websites and videos. And Jake is like an 80-year-old, I always tell him. And I see him as the next John Williams.
23.
23. But go ahead. Will you tell him, please, just a little about kind of your journey? And I'm just going to stand off to the side.
When I was like 9 years old, my mom's like, what do you want for Christmas? And I said a vacuum cleaner. And then I came out to her, and she was so surprised. And I'm like, I'm like, Mom, I love cleaning and playing Polly Pockets with my sister, and this doesn't make sense. But I went to BYU, and I actually ended up getting kicked out of the university and out of the church. And I wanted to move back to Utah and make a difference. And so I met Stephenie, and she said, I have this crazy idea to start a house in Provo, and I just laughed. I'm like, no one's gonna come. But it's been packed since we opened, and it's been amazing. I'm gonna briefly kind of explain like what my role is I do marketing for Encircle. I'm just an independent contractor. I kind of help out wherever I can. I also help Love Loud, which is the concert series. I do all of their marketing and whatnot. And between the two organizations, especially Encircle has like a deep part of my heart because it's so needed. One thing I do is encircletogether.org. So if you haven't been to our website, go visit it because it's awesome. And it's really easy to find. We have tons of awesome videos on there. I'm going to show you in this video how to get to the videos. So you can just search Encircle in Google or Encircle Together. Our website receives a huge amount of traffic. For people who don't live close to Encircle, this is the way that you can interact with us and like take part in the love without living super close. So on our homepage, which is right here, you've got our donate button, our mission, our different programs. You can book your counseling session online. You can sign up to volunteer. You can buy one of these cool t-shirts that supports the house. Or you can go to our videos page. And these are all the videos that we've created since our inception on Valentine's Day last year. There's a bunch. There's little headings. The Starbucks video. What is it like to come out? There's one there that says, what is Encircle? I'd like to play that one now.
I just love Encircle because there's so much love in that house, and the people of Encircle are so wonderful.
Like overall, it's just been a blessing in my life, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
You guys are beautiful. You created something so beautiful, and you created this at a time when it was needed the most.
I just feel so much love when I walk in the door and meet all the wonderful people there, especially the youth. I just love them.
I love the people at Encircle, and I love what Encircle stands for. No sides, only love.
Encircle is an LGBTQ family and youth resource center in the heart of downtown Provo, Utah.
The conservative Mormon town of Provo, Utah will soon open its first LGBT resource center. It stands directly across the street from a church temple.
Concerns over higher than average suicide rates among LGBT youth in Utah. A new community project in Provo is hoping to not only save lives, but bring families back together.
When you walk into Encircle, we want you to feel accepted. We want you to feel validated. We want you to feel like you are home.
Right now, we know one of the biggest drivers for suicide in the state is when young people feel isolated, alienated, and alone. And the entire mission of the Encircle House is to create a space where these young people can come and feel loved and valued and know that there's a place for them right in Provo.
They've got a friendly, warm, sustaining, abiding place to go where they can feel support and love and strength. This is one of the most important things to come along in the LGBT community in many a year.
Every week, Encircle has guest speakers, we have life skills workshops, an art night, and tons of other uplifting, positive activities built for all ages. The people who come to Encircle are unique and beautiful and diverse. We have youth and families and grandparents and religious people, non-religious people, everybody is welcome at Encircle.
Makes me so happy and makes me feel so warm when I walk in there.
Encircle has kind of been like a second home for me.
Brings so much light into my life.
It's probably my favorite part of my job is being able to help create these videos and then receive thousands of messages from like kids in like Nebraska who are like, I watch all of your videos and I love what you're doing. Please come to Nebraska. I'm like, okay, let's do it. The mission behind our videos is to extend our love to the world. And so every time we do something amazing in the house, we make it a goal to record it and push it out. You know, if we can fill 30 or 40 people into a room, but we'll average 70,000 views on our video. So it really just helps push things out. Since we've started, we've had a combined total of 5.3 million views across all platforms, which is really special when you consider that every view counts and everything we're putting out is LGBTQ affirming and built to just change conversations. And truthfully, it is changing conversations, and I'm proud to have anything to do with it. We also have the Encircle library, where we take knowledge and we push it out. So you can go onto the website, and it's super easy to find, encircletogether.org/library, and we have these amazing pamphlets that Jordan has taken and curated from some of the best research that we've been able to find. This is the explanation for homosexuality. We give this out to people who come into the house. This was, you know, hundreds of pages of research that we condensed into, you know, 40+ pages to make it digestible and easy to look at and easy to read. But is an LGBTQ person born that way? Yes. And here's the science, you know, and that's what we're trying to distribute. The best part of all of these pamphlets and resources that we develop is that it's free and it's available at any Encircle location, and this is just the beginning, and we're going to keep expanding. Our resource list. This is honestly the best part of our website, in my opinion. It's a list of organizations that we really love, and you can go to encircletogether.org/resources. And let's say you're looking for a phone number because your friend's suicidal and you want to give them a resource. You can go to suicide prevention, and we have everything right there. Easy to find. Text that to them. Save it to your phone. Have it available to you. Let's say you're in high school and you want to find a gay-straight alliance club in your school. We've teamed up with as many as we could, and we're helping schools open more. But you can find that school and their contact for the area that you're in. Or if you're looking for an organization that is close to you, this is every LGBTQ organization we can find in the state. And so you can team up with them and volunteer and get involved. I think that's about it on the resources. I do want to say that we're super excited to be here and to share this message with you. The core of what Encircle is to take people who feel alone and change that forever. At Ignite, at the Youth Summit, there was this kid that came from Moab, and you know, he's 13, and he's like, I'm the only one in our gay club. I'm like, so is that even a club, if it's just one? And he's like, I didn't think there was any other gay people, and then he came to our Youth Summit, and he was surrounded by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people just like him, and that's what we're all about. I'll give it back to Steph.
Oh, I don't need that. You keep that.
I'm going to skip the
other.
Skip through the donation.
Okay. So, as a circle has no sides, Encircle is no sides, only love. And I just want to end by kind of explaining what that means to us. When we do volunteer training, we always go around the room and we say, why would you want to be a volunteer here at Encircle? What led you here? And one of my favorite times was when we were going around the room and I get to this gentleman who says, I am here because I am mad at my church. They are the cause of these deaths and people suffering and feeling alone. The next man said, well, I am here because I am a bishop and I need to understand this. And the next man said, I'm here because I'm gay and I'm in a bishopric. I was like, wow, crazy. But I think that that is why Encircle is working, is because people come and their whole reason for being there is to love and support these youth and to get to know them and to help them feel connected to other people and to get them out of their rooms from being alone where they're isolated and maybe feeling loneliness and depression, and instead to connect them with their community. I think that at Encircle we're learning to love better, more deeply, and more effectively. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity that I've had to work with so many phenomenal people from all different walks of life who kind of believe in that we all do need to learn to love one another better and support each other better. I'm going to pull Jacob and Jordan back up on the stage in case any of you have any questions. How about that? And thanks for having us. I came down a few months ago and spoke at PFLAG, and it's just a phenomenal group of people, and there's Monica. But anyway, does anyone have any questions? Maybe you guys are going to let us off the hook really easily. No? All right, well, that's easy then. Okay. Yes. Well, we're still getting it together, but I will tell you, I didn't leave in the story that when I decided to do this, I made a phone call to John Williams, who I talked about, who's my husband's uncle, and asked him, will you help me do something in Provo to help the gay community? Because I think if there's anywhere in the country where they may need help, it may be right in my own backyard. We have 2 large universities and over 100,000 college students in the Provo area and over 100,000 families, and not one service for LGBTQ youth. Aside from, there are a lot of therapists in the area that do reparative therapy, which is where you try to make yourself not be gay anymore, or you try to make yourself be straight. And the American Psychiatric Association has come out against that and said it's very dangerous, it's very unhealthy for people, but that's something that our community currently does do a little bit of, but there were no positive, affirming places to go. So anyway, I called John, and he says, sure, what are we going to do? So John and I spent a couple months looking into what would we do, and we decided, well, it needs to be a house. It needs to feel like home. And anyway, about 2 months after that phone call, John was actually murdered. And so I was left with no one who, I lost the gay man who understood, I lost the financial backing and the business experience. But what was wonderful is all these people that I didn't know but had somehow heard of this project just started showing up at my house, or on text message, these 2, saying, we want to help, we want to make this possible. And it's been really great to see people give so much of their time and their money to make this happen. But that was like in April. This is a really long answer to your question. In April, and then we didn't open until the next February. Renovating this little blue house was rough and fun, but we'd bring the community in and have them help us. So Jake would throw up a Facebook ad and say, hey, we're working on the house, we're gonna rip out the carpet today. And we didn't know if anyone would show up. The first time we did this, we had 30 people show up. The last time we did it about 6 times. There were 125 people there. Like we couldn't even almost fit in this little house. And so it was fun to see the community involvement. I remember saying to this youth who goes to BYU, whose name is Gabe, you've been here every time. Thank you so much for coming. And he said, well, I love to come because I feel like people love and care about me. and just seeing those people there that would support something like that. So that the renovation was fun, and that's what we'll do in Salt Lake too, is bring the community in and help us. So, any other questions? Yes.
So we were at the Love Loud concert. Great, nice marketing for that. And I remember there was an announcement from the LDS Church that encouraged people that wanted to go. Is that right?
Yes.
Since then, have you seen any other moves, or have you felt or heard or anything from the LDS Church about support for LGBTQ or Encircle or the LGBTQ community?
Do you want to answer that, Jake?
So when it comes to Love Loud, the church endorsement, was months and months and months of conversations. But I think Encircle remains pretty, could I say, indifferent to how the church feels. The thing is we're going to be here until we're no longer needed, and we're going to keep, building houses and expanding until it's no longer needed. I would love to see the church endorse what Encircle is doing. I think there's no reason they can't. It's awesome. So, I think it's maybe just not something that we'd go out and ask for, but we'd welcome it, of course, or endorsement by any religious organization, for that matter.
One thing that I will say is happening, though, is we are getting a lot of bishops, young women leaders, people who recognize there are people in their wards who need to be understood and accepted and loved, and they're working hard to do that. BYU comes, and a lot of professors come and help us. The athletic department is heavily involved at BYU. They're trying to find ways that they can do better. We've actually seen church PRs come down. I think that they're working to do better. We hope, because it's tough. And I will say, with Love Loud, and maybe I shouldn't even speak about this, but when they had 20,000 tickets for sale, and Dan Reynolds, Imagine Dragons, if any of you aren't familiar, he's the one who threw this concert. He sells out in 2 days 60,000 tickets. So he thought, well, if I do Love Loud, it'll sell out like that. It's only 20,000 tickets. The tickets were on sale for over a month? 2.5 months, and he only sold 7,000 tickets to this.
Not happening. 2 weeks before the concert, we still had about half of our tickets available, which was
so
not
the
good.
minute there was a church endorsement, it sold out. And so it's a scary, hard issue for people, and we're trying to normalize it and talk about it and provide ways of having conversations, because I think that that's one of the hardest things is, as a mom, what I was seeing before starting Encircle is that a number of my friends have gay children, and they don't talk about it. They kind of push it aside, which means that child is not necessarily sometimes being taken care of the way they should, because people don't know what to do. And hopefully we can help with that. And we're kind of gearing Encircle to go into any conservative community. It's not about the LDS Church, that's just where we are. And we're actually talking to people in Texas about opening one there, and that would be geared to fit their conservative community. We just want these kids alive and thriving, and just recognize how amazing they are. So,
Come to Love Loud next year, and come visit Encircle.
Monica.
I'm not sure, but if you're not, there's a form at the bottom. Even since we've launched the site, this revised edition of it, there's been a ton of people saying, add me to your resource list. And there's a little button at the bottom. And if you do that, we just throw it straight up.
Yeah, Monica and Robert, we need to make sure we get both of your organizations on there. I haven't checked to see if they're on there. So, any other questions? You guys blown away? Are you like?
In the back. First thing I tell you is you are awesome, and being gay is great and okay and valid.
I would say listen to yourself, whatever that means, whatever that is for you. I think it's really difficult in in this community in particular, to listen to what your heart is telling you as opposed to what the messaging is around us. So that's what I would say. Listen to yourself and surround yourself with people who will allow you to do that and give you the space to do that. Like us at Encircle, come talk to us.
One thing I'd like to say on that is I always tell these youth, I think they are so courageous, because when you have kids who are 14, 15, 16, 20, who know what that might mean if they come out, socially where that puts them, and they're doing it and they're true to themselves, I am in awe of them. And I also think by the time they're my age, I just wonder who they'll be. You know, if they are willing to take on that risk and to go forward and be who they are, I think they are very brave and very courageous, and admire them a lot.
One thing I'll throw into that is I have this girlfriend, and she's always saying, I need a gay best friend. And I'm like, huh. And she just called me the other day, and she was crying. And she was like, you know what I need? I need a transgender best friend. I need a bisexual best friend, a pansexual best friend. You know, and I think that's a really, really great point, is we need to expand our vision of what LGBTQ is to be more than just like me. You know, and it's a huge community of people. And so to your point, know that, like, no matter where you fall on the sexual or gender spectrum, there's space for you, and there are people who are rooting for you.
One thing that I think is also interesting is when we had that Ignite, when we brought together 400 college or high school students from around Utah for this conference. And the idea with this conference was to get them together so that they could feel like, I'm not alone. There are other people who are experiencing what I am. And so they can have friendships and connections that we hope will last them through the year until they come back again. That they won't feel alone. And we do data on everything we do, because if we can offer programs forever, but if they're not helping people and changing lives, then there's no reason to do it. So Jordan does all the data, and at both Ignite and at our little house in Provo, 30% plus of the youth who are coming are gender variant, or some are transgender, but that many of them are fluid in their gender. A third of the kids who are seeing therapy, it is that they are in that gender variant spectrum. A third of the kids, a third are also families that we're seeing. And I think that's really one of the greatest things, is when we can get the parents in, maybe learning something different than what they've always been told. So. Any other questions? Yes, for sure. I'll answer that. I would say one thing that's unique about Encircle is that our therapy is completely non-prescriptive. We would never tell anyone what to do. We want them to be healthy, whole individuals. For some people, that means leaving the church and going and living somewhere else. Other people want to live monogamous, or not monogamous, what's the word I'm coming up with? Celibate lives and stay within the church. And we love and celebrate wherever anyone finds health and wellness. And a lot of people move, but a lot of the youth at Encircle are no longer attending church, and a lot are. People are all over the place, and that's why I think that it's great, is that doesn't matter. It's about the individual and respecting them and where they are.
Right. I mean, to add to that, if somebody came in, we have volunteers who have been excommunicated who are married to their same-sex partner, and they volunteer with someone who does their shift at Encircle and then goes to the temple for their shift at the temple. So we at Encircle, our message isn't leave the church or stay in the church. It's, we don't know you and what's best for you, but we're going to help you get to know yourself and learn to love yourself, whatever that looks like. So to answer your question, yes, definitely.
I'm going to throw out one thing, not part of the question, but those pamphlets that Jake talked about that we've been working on, there was a BYU biology professor who had a son come out as gay, He, after being a mission president and then being a stake president and a bishop, his son comes out to him as gay, and he was like, I've never thought about that. So he spent the last 30 years doing his own research on where does our sexuality come from? Where does our gender and how we see ourselves as male, as female, how does this happen? And he's also been following all the research from around the world. The research now within the world is people are born gay or straight or whatever your sexuality is. When you are in vitro, you figure out if you think you're male or female. Sometimes everything aligns and sometimes it doesn't. So I think that that is where the world is going, and we're learning more and more every day about how we develop, and that it happens in vitro. I think that you might find it fascinating to look online. We've got all that information in those pamphlets. And I think that that's helping some youth be okay with themselves who maybe thought that God would never make them this way. And now I think God made them this way, and it's beautiful, and it's part of the plan. And we should respect them because, you know, it's how they came, and I think it's a beautiful way to be. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate being here.